People think the worst pain in life comes from illness, old age, or loneliness, but they're wrong. The deepest pain comes when your own child looks at you like you are a burden. I learned that truth on a cold Tuesday morning, the day my daughter, Emma, drove me to what she claimed was a beautiful assisted living center. Her voice was sweet. Her smile was practiced. But her eyes were cold, distant, and full of something I couldn't name. I should have seen the signs earlier. The rushed conversations, the impatient sighs, the way she avoided hugging me these days, like affection had become too heavy for her to hold. But an old mother's love blinds her to the cracks. I sat beside her in the car, holding my small purse in my lap, feeling strangely like a child waiting for punishment. Emma didn't speak much, just tapped the steering wheel and said every few minutes, "Mom, this is for the best. You'll understand. For the best." For whom? She never said. When we reached the building, I realized immediately that something wasn't right. It wasn't the warm, lively place she described. It was quiet. Too quiet. A beige building with flickering lights, cracked tiles at the entrance, and a smell that felt like loneliness soaked into the walls. The sign at the front said, "Ridgeview Long Term Facility." Facility. Not home, not residence, not community. Facility. A word that sounded like storage. I swallowed hard. "Emma, this isn't the place you showed me in the pictures." She didn't meet my eyes. "They changed management," she muttered quickly. "But it's still fine. You'll be fine." She grabbed my arm firmly, too firmly, and guided me toward the door. I stopped. "Emma, wait, why are we here?" "You said we were going to a doctor's appointment." Annoyance flashed across her face. "Mom, don't start. I can't keep doing this. Not with my work. Not with the boys. Not with everything else in my life." Each word felt like a stone hitting my chest. "I've taken care of you for months," she continued, "and I can't anymore. I'm exhausted." Exhausted? I wanted to ask her what exactly exhausted her. The weekly grocery shopping I paid for, the house I helped her get after her divorce, the grandkids I babysat for free for years, the meals I cooked when she didn't feel like being a mother. I bit my tongue. Old mothers swallow their hurt. It's what we do. Inside the lobby, a woman in scrubs handed me a clipboard. "Sign here, Mrs. Allen," she said politely. My hand trembled as I took the pen. "Why am I signing? I haven't agreed to anything." Emma sighed loudly, embarrassed. "Mom, don't make a scene. I've talked to them. Everything is arranged. Arranged. Like I was a package being delivered." The woman behind the counter forced a smile. "You'll have your own room, Mrs. Allen. 3 meals a day. Assistance if you need it. Activities. It'll be lovely? Lovely." Why did her eyes say otherwise? I looked around. 2 elderly people sat slumped on a couch, staring blankly at a muted television. Another woman was crying softly into a tissue, while a nurse patted her shoulder mechanically. Nothing here felt lovely. I placed my pen on the counter. My voice was small but steady. "I'm not staying." Emma's expression hardened instantly. "You don't have a choice." I froze. "What? You heard me?" She snapped quietly, glancing around to make sure no one heard. "I already signed the authorization papers." Authorization. My head spun. "You can't sign for me," I whispered. "I'm not incompetent." She clenched her jaw. "You might not be incompetent, Mom, but you're making my life impossible." Someone walked past us with rattling medicine carts. The air smelled like bleach. I felt suddenly dizzy. I wasn't old enough to be here. I wasn't mentally gone. I wasn't sick. My only crime was being an inconvenience. A nurse approached and touched my arm gently. "Why don't I show you your room, sweetheart? You can get settled in." I pulled my arm back. No, please, I want to go home." Emma stiffened. "Mom, you don't have a home. Not anymore." Her voice dropped into a cold whisper. I sold it. Everything inside me stopped. The world tilted. My ears rang. I felt my heartbeat pounding like it wanted to escape my chest. "You sold it? You sold my home?" The words wouldn't leave my mouth, but she answered anyway. Maybe she could see the question in my broken silence. "I sold it last month," she said sharply. "I needed the money. And you weren't living there anyway, you were staying with me." I stumbled back a step. "You sold my house." She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic. You didn't need it anymore, and I need my life back. This," she gestured around, "is what works for everyone. Everyone except me." Suddenly a wave of panic crashed over me. I felt trapped, abandoned, discarded like something old and used. The nurse tried again to guide me. "Come with me, dear." "No," I whispered. "Please, no." But Emma's face had already closed. Her decision was final. "Mom," she said coldly, "this is your new home." She turned to leave. And that is when something inside me snapped awake. A memory, a fact, a truth Emma had forgotten or maybe never knew. Something powerful, something life-changing, something that could destroy every plan she had. I took a shaky breath and spoke the words that stopped her in her tracks at the exit door. The words that made her spin around, go pale, and collapse into a chair. But that truth, that secret, I will tell you soon. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The nurse's hand on my elbow. Emma's fingers curled around the door handle. The quiet lobby with its humming fluorescent lights. The slow ticking of the clock on the wall. My own daughter had sold my house. Not asked, not discussed, not even warned me. She had taken everything I had worked my whole life for and left me here. "Mom, please," Emma muttered, shifting her weight impatiently. "Don't make this harder than it has to be. I'm already late for a meeting." A meeting, of course. Her schedule, her time, her life, those were the things that mattered. Not the fact she had just uprooted mine like a weed. The nurse cleared her throat gently. "Mrs. Allen, we really should get you settled. Your daughter has completed the intake. We'll take good care of you." Take good care of you? I'd heard that phrase before. At hospitals, at schools, at every place where someone else wanted control. I stared at the clipboard again. At the empty space where my signature was supposed to be. Where my consent was supposed to go. I had given no consent, and yet my daughter was already halfway to the door. "Emma," I said, and this time my voice was different. Stronger, sharper. It surprised even me. She stopped. There was something in my tone that made her turn. "What?" she snapped. I straightened my back. I might have been in my 60s, my hair thinner than before, and my bones a little slower. But I was not helpless. I was not weak. And very quietly, I said the first sentence that made the color drain from her face. "You do remember whose name the house was under, don't you?" Her eyes flickered, just for a second. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But I was her mother. I'd watched her face since the day she was born. "You're confused, Mom," she shot back quickly. "The house was in your name. That's why I sold it. As your daughter, as your next of kin. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal." I almost laughed, but I didn't. Because this was not the moment to laugh. This was the moment to wait, to let the hook sink in. I forced my expression to stay calm. Oh, is that what you think? I asked softly. Her lips tightened. It's not what I think. It's what the paperwork said. The realtor confirmed it. The nurse's eyes moved between us, sensing the shift in the air. Something was happening. Something bigger than a simple admission form. I took a slow breath, and my mind traveled back through years of memories, coated in dust, but not forgotten. Back to my husband in his hospital bed, holding my hand with tired eyes. Promise me, he had whispered, his voice thin but clear. You won't let anyone push you out of your own life? I had frowned. What do you mean? You know Emma. He sighed. She always thinks she knows best. She rushes. She decides. She fixes things by forcing them. I don't want her deciding your future like that. I had shaken my head back then. She's our daughter, I'd said. She loves us. He'd smiled sadly. I know she does, he replied. But love doesn't always mean wisdom. A week later, he had insisted on seeing a lawyer, insisted on going through every document with me. The will, the bank accounts, the house. I remember the lawyer's voice even now. Mrs. Allen will be placing the house in a living trust in your name, he'd explained. Your daughter will have access only after your death and only according to the conditions you choose. Conditions. I'd asked. Yes, he'd said. Your husband requested a specific clause. If your daughter ever tries to move you into a facility against your will, the house and its assets will be transferred somewhere else entirely. Where? I'd whispered. He'd smiled gently. To where you decide. I had thought it was all too much then. Too dramatic. Too cautious. My husband had squeezed my hand. One day, he'd said, you'll be glad we did this. Standing in that cold nursing home lobby, watching my daughter pretend she had all the power, I finally understood. He had seen this coming long before I did. Mum, Emma snapped, dragging me back to the present. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You're getting confused. This is why you can't live alone anymore. You mix up details. You misremember things. I don't misremember legal documents. I cut in sharply. The nurse flinched at my tone. Emma narrowed her eyes. What are you implying? I took a step closer to her. For the first time that day, she was the one backing away. You said you sold my house, I said softly. You signed papers. You took money. You made plans with something that didn't belong to you. It was under your name, she insisted. I spoke with the realtor. I told them I was your daughter. Did you also tell them, I interrupted, that the property was held in a trust with legal protection against exactly what you're doing right now? Her face went blank. The nurse raised her eyebrows. Trust, she repeated softly. A's in estate trust. Emma's voice faltered. Mom, stop. You're making this sound bigger than it is. Oh, it's big, I replied quietly. Much bigger than you realize. Because when you tried to sell that house, Emma, you committed fraud. Her mouth opened, then closed. It was like she'd been slapped. I could see the calculation start behind her eyes, the frantic, silent search through her memory. What had she signed? What had she told the bank? What had she told the agent? Had they even checked the title properly? That's not possible, she stammered. The sale went through. For now, I said calmly. But that won't last. The nurse's eyes darted between us, clearly realizing this wasn't a simple family disagreement. Emma's face had gone completely pale, like all the blood had drained out at once. Mum, she whispered, her voice cracking slightly. What are you talking about? Don't say things like that in public. In public? I repeated quietly. Emma, The only thing that should worry you right now is the truth, not who hears it. She swallowed hard. The nurse stepped slightly closer to me, protective, like she sensed I wasn't the one who needed supervision. Mrs. Allen, the nurse asked gently, are you saying your daughter didn't have the legal right to sign your home over? Emma jumped in immediately. She's confused, she insisted. She gets like this under stress. She forgets things, mixes things up. That's why she needs to be here. A convenient story. A convenient story. A neat little box to place me in. Confused, forgetful, unstable. She had rehearsed this narrative. She had counted on it. I inhaled deeply. No, I said clearly. I am not confused. I'm not forgetful. But you will be, I added softly, when the attorney calls you. The flinch on her face was instant. What attorney? She stammered. The one who handled the trust. I replied. The one who manages the records. The one who was notified automatically the moment you attempted the sale. Her eyebrows shot up. Notified? What do you mean, notified? You really don't understand how a trust works, do you? I asked gently, almost pitying her. Every transaction is monitored. Every attempt to access the funds or title triggers a legal alert. Her lips parted as the realization crept in. She had walked right into a trap without even knowing there was one. Mom, she whispered, fear leaking into her tone. What does that mean? The nurse waited quietly, listening. It means, I said softly, that the moment you signed those papers, the trust updated. It means the sale cannot be finalized. It means the money is frozen. Emma staggered back a step. No, she breathed. No, it already went into my account. Did it? I asked calmly. Or did you only think it did? She fumbled in her purse, yanked out her phone, and opened her banking app with trembling fingers. Her eyes scanned the screen, then froze. No, she whispered. No, it's on hold. Of course it is, I said, because you weren't authorized. The trustee locked the funds. Her breath came out in quick, shaky gasps. Why didn't anyone tell me? She demanded. They did. I replied gently. You just ignored the letter. Her eyes darted up. Fear, real fear, shown there now. Letter? Yes, I said. The letter addressed to you 2 weeks ago. The one you left unopened on your kitchen counter. Her mouth fell open. She had been in such a rush to take what wasn't hers. She hadn't even bothered to read what the law had tried to warn her about. The nurse took a small step in front of me now, as if to shield me from Emma's unraveling. Mom, the nurse asked carefully, did you know your mother's property was protected by a trust? Emma's voice came out strangled. No! I thought it was just a regular house. No one told me. Your father told you, I said quietly. Many times. You simply didn't listen. That broke her composure. Her face twisted with something sharp and wounded. Don't, she whispered. Don't bring Dad into this. Why not? I asked. He saw this coming. He wanted to protect me from exactly what you tried to do. She shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. Mom, you're making me sound like a monster. I'm making you sound like what you've become, I replied gently. Not because you're evil, but because you're overwhelmed. Because you felt trapped. Because you didn't ask for help. You tried to solve your life by removing me from it. The nurse exhaled slowly, understanding. Emma covered her face with her hands. I didn't want to hurt you. She sobbed. I just wanted breathing room. I felt like I was drowning. Work, the kids, the bills. I thought if I could settle you somewhere safe, I'd be able to handle everything else. I stepped toward her. Emma, I said softly, you don't get to decide where I live. You don't get to decide that I'm done existing. She lowered her hands, eyes wet. I wasn't abandoning you, but you were, I whispered, even if you didn't want to see it. She collapsed into a chair, trembling. The nurse approached her. Mom, she said gently, this is a huge legal issue. You need to talk to someone before you proceed with anything else. We can't keep your mother here. She hasn't consented. And with this situation, she shook her head. We could lose our license if we take her in. Emma let out a broken, shuddering breath. She had walked in confident, certain she was in control, certain her plan would be simple. Now she sat there like a child who'd finally been caught in a lie too big to hide. I walked toward the exit door. My knees shook, not out of age, out of heartbreak. Emma stumbled after me. Mom, she cried. Please, wait. I didn't turn immediately. For the first time in my life, I let her feel the distance between us. When I finally faced her, her expression was desperate, pleading, terrified. Mom, what's going to happen to me? She whispered. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said the words that made her collapse into the nearest chair. That depends entirely on what you do next. For the first time since we walked into that awful building, the power shifted. Not because I wanted it to, not because I planned for it, but because the truth has its own weight and it always falls where it belongs. Emma sat hunched in the chair, both hands over her face, shoulders shaking. The nurse stepped away respectfully, giving us space, but her watchful eyes lingered. She had seen scenes like this before, families tearing at seams they pretended didn't exist. Mom, I didn't mean for this to happen, Emma whispered through trembling fingers. I stood near the exit, my hand resting lightly on the cold metal bar of the door. One push, and I could leave. Walk out. Go home. But did I even have a home left? The thought sliced through me like a cold blade. My house was frozen in legal limbo. My daughter was crumbling. My life had almost been rewritten in a single morning. I turned back toward her. Emma, I said softly, look at me. She slowly lowered her hands. Her face was blotched red, eyes swollen, mascara smeared. She didn't look like the polished, confident woman who had driven me here. She looked like a frightened little girl. Mom, I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I swear I didn't know the house was protected. I didn't know the money would get frozen. I didn't know any of it. I wasn't trying to. Stop. I cut in gently but firmly. This isn't about the house. Her breath caught. She blinked rapidly, confused. What? What do you mean? I exhaled slowly and sat in the chair across from her. What hurts, I said softly, is not the money, or the legal trouble, or the trust. What hurts is that you thought your life would be easier without me. She looked down, shame flooding her face. Mom, please don't say it like that. How else should I say it? I asked quietly. You drove me here without warning. You told me I didn't have a home anymore. You made choices for me without me. You thought I was disposable. The word made her flinch visibly. No, she breathed. I wasn't trying to throw you away. I didn't know what else to do. You could have talked to me. Her voice cracked. I was scared. I tilted my head slightly. Scared of what? She hesitated. Then the dam broke. Scared of failing, she cried. Scared of being a bad mother, a bad daughter, a bad everything. I'm barely keeping my own life together, Mom. I didn't know how to take care of you too. Her confession hung in the air, raw and trembling. I'm not a burden, I said softly. I know, she sobbed, but it felt like everything was falling apart. Work is impossible. The boys fight constantly. The bills keep piling. And when you started needing help with little things, the stairs, the pills, the groceries, I panicked. I thought, if I lose control of this too, I'll break. I reached out and touched her hand. She froze. You should have told me, I whispered. You should have let me help you. Instead, you tried to erase me from your life. Her voice shrank to a whisper. I didn't want you to see how messy everything is. I already knew, I said gently. She looked up, startled. You think I can't see when my own child is drowning? I asked. You think mothers don't notice the cracks, the exhaustion, the missed calls, the forced smiles? A tear rolled down her cheek. You never said anything, she whispered. I was waiting for you, I replied, waiting for you to let me in. She shook her head, overwhelmed. I thought if I looked weak in front of you, you'd worry, and I didn't want to pile that on too. Her voice grew small. You raised me alone, Mom. You handled everything. You were strong. I didn't want you to see how weak I am. I closed my eyes for a moment. Ah, there it was. The truth hidden beneath every sharp word, every cold decision, every mistake. Fear, not cruelty, not selfishness. Fear. I squeezed her hand gently. You are not weak, I said. You are human. And humans struggle, humans break, humans panic. That doesn't make you bad. She let out a trembling breath. But what you did, I interrupted, was wrong. But wrong doesn't mean unforgivable. It means fixable. She stared at me, eyes wide. And how do I fix this? She whispered. I took a long breath. This was the moment everything had been building toward. First, I said softly, you're going to call the attorney and explain what happened. Completely no lies, no excuses. She nodded quickly. Yes, I will. Second, I continued, you're going to cancel whatever agreement you signed with this facility. The nurse stepped forward. We can assist with that. She assured no charges so far. She's free to go. Emma exhaled shakily. Thank God. Third, I said, you and I are going to talk. Really talk. About what you need, what I need, and how we live the rest of our lives without fear leading the way. She nodded again, tears falling freely now. Okay, I can do that. And fourth, I added gently, you're going to stop believing I'm fragile. She blinked, startled. What? I'm your mother, Emma. I'm older, not broken. She covered her mouth, a mix of relief and guilt spilling over. Then she whispered the question that cut through me more deeply than anything else. Mom, do you still want to come home with me? I stood slowly, squeezing her hand as I did. That, I said softly, depends on whether you're asking me out of love or out of fear. Her breath hitched. And then, finally, she answered with the truth that mattered. Love, Mom, she whispered. I'm asking because I love you and I want to do better. For the first time in hours, I felt the heaviness inside me shift. Not disappear, but soften. I nodded toward the door. Then let's go, I said. But she didn't move. She stared at me, eyes wide, fear returning. Mom, you still haven't told me. That thing you said at the door. The truth you revealed. The thing you said would change everything. What was it? I looked at her quietly. That, I whispered, is a conversation we're about to have. We walked out of the nursing home together, slowly, side by side. The automatic doors slid open, letting in a rush of cool air that felt like a release, like stepping out of a nightmare I hadn't chosen. But Emma wasn't walking with confidence. Her steps were small, hesitant. She kept glancing at me as if I might disappear or collapse or tell her the punishment was just beginning. Outside, the parking lot was almost empty. Just a few scattered cars, a couple of late shift nurses, and the wide, gray sky stretching overhead. Emma paused by her car, but didn't unlock it. She stood there quietly, twisting her keys between her fingers. "Mom," she began softly. "Before we leave, you said something back there. Something that scared me." I didn't answer right away. She swallowed hard. "You said there was a truth I didn't know. Something about the house. Something Dad did. Something you'd reveal at the exit door." I nodded once. "And you said it would change everything." She took a shaky breath. "Mom, what did you mean?" I walked toward one of the benches outside the building and sat down. Emma hesitated before joining me, her hands clutched tightly together. For a long moment, I watched the cars drive by on the road beyond the fence. People going on with their normal lives, shopping, working, planning dinner. Meanwhile, my daughter and I were sitting between past wounds and future consequences. Finally, I spoke. "Emma, the house wasn't the only thing your father put in the trust." Her eyebrows knit together. "What do you mean?" "He protected more than just the property." I said softly. "He protected me, yes, but he also protected you." She blinked. "May?" I nodded slowly. "Your father knew something about you that you didn't know about yourself." She shifted nervously. "And what's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said gently, "that he knew you panic when life feels out of control. He knew you make drastic decisions when you're overwhelmed. He knew you'll fight to fix everything, even if it means breaking yourself in the process." She looked down, shame washing over her. "He worried," I continued. "He worried that one day you might make a decision that wasn't in your best interest or mine, not because you're a bad person, but because you're afraid of failing." Tears filled her eyes again. "Mom, I don't want to be like that." "You're not," I said. "Not all the time, not even most of the time. But stress changes people. And your father saw how hard you push yourself." She wiped her tears. "What does this have to do with the trust?" "Because," I said softly, "your father gave me one more clause, one more piece of control, not to punish you, but to protect you." She went still. "Mom, what clause?" I took a gentle breath. "Emma, the trust has your name on it too." Her head jerked up. "What?" "You heard me," I said quietly. "Half of everything is yours." Her eyes filled with shock. "No?" she whispered. "No, that can't be right. I didn't earn that. I didn't deserve that. You're his daughter," I cut in. "You always deserved it." She shook her head violently. "But after what I did, after almost throwing you away, after dragging you here, how could it still be mine?" "Because the trust wasn't based on what you might do," I said softly. "It was based on who your father believed you truly were." Her breath trembled. "And who did he think I was?" I smiled sadly. "A good person who sometimes panics. A loving daughter who gets overwhelmed. A woman who forgets she doesn't need to carry everything alone." Tears streamed down her face now, harder. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I placed my hand on hers. "That's why it wasn't the house that mattered today," I said. "It was the truth. The truth that you don't have to fight alone. The truth that your father didn't want wealth to become a weapon between us. The truth that half of everything is yours, but only if you choose us over fear." She stared at me, stunned and trembling. You mean the trust still includes me, even now? Yes. Her breath hitched. And what if I hadn't come back? If I had just dropped you off and left you here? I looked at her with a sadness deeper than any anger. Then the trust would have removed your name automatically. Her face froze. Removed me? Yes, I said gently. Your father loved you, but he wasn't blind. He added a condition: if you ever abandoned me or tried to trap me in a facility against my will, your share would be dissolved and redirected. She stared at me in shock. To who? She whispered. To charity, I said. Your father wanted nothing to go to someone acting out of fear instead of love. She covered her mouth as a sob broke out. So today? She whispered, voice cracking. Today I almost lost everything. Yes, I said quietly. Everything. Me, the house of the inheritance, your father's legacy, all of it. She cried openly now, shoulders shaking. And why are you telling me this now? Why are you giving me another chance? I reached out and cupped her cheek gently like I used to when she was a child. Because you didn't leave me at that door, I said. You came back. You asked for forgiveness. You chose love. And that means you are still my daughter, not my enemy. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing against my shoulder. I held her as tightly as I could, feeling her fear, her regret, her relief mixing together like a flood. I will do better, she cried. I swear I will. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose anything. I stroked her hair gently. Then don't, I whispered. Just choose love, Emma, every time. Even when it's harder than fear. We stayed like that for a long moment, mother and daughter, broken but rebuilding. And when she finally pulled back, wiping her swollen eyes, I said the sentence that made her jaw fall open in disbelief. Now you know the truth, Emma, but there's one last thing I still haven't told you. Emma froze. Her tears hadn't even dried yet, but the panic returned instantly, not loud, not dramatic, but quiet and sharp, like a needle pressed to the skin. What do you mean there's one last thing? She whispered. Mum, what else is there? I didn't answer right away, because this wasn't about the trust or the money or the betrayal. This was about something deeper, something older, something that had been sitting between us for years without either of us naming it. I took a slow, steady breath. Emma, I said softly, do you know why your father insisted on putting everything in writing before he passed? She frowned through her tears. I thought he was just being careful, she said. You know how he was, always organized, always planning ahead. I shook my head gently. It wasn't about being organized. Her eyebrows tightened. Then why? She whispered. I looked out at the parking lot. A car passed by, engine humming softly. A woman pushed her mother in a wheelchair toward the doors. Life kept moving all around us, but our little world was frozen. Finally, I turned back to Emma. He did it because of something that happened long before you were born? I said quietly. Her breath caught. Something about Dad. And me, I added. She swallowed. Mom, what happened? I clasped my hands together, pressing my thumbs gently against one another, an old habit of mine when I had to talk about painful things. Emma, I was abandoned too. Her whole body went still. Look, what? She whispered. You. Yes, I said softly. When I was 25, she blinked rapidly, stunned. I thought your parents passed when I was young. They did, I said, but not before sending me away. Not before deciding I wasn't enough. Emma leaned forward slightly, like she was afraid to move too quickly. Mom, I never knew that. You weren't supposed to, I replied. I didn't want my pain to shape your childhood. I wanted you to grow up feeling safe, loved, wanted. Not afraid of losing me the way I lost mine. Her eyes filled again, this time with something different from guilt, something like sorrow. What did they do? She whispered. I exhaled slowly. My parents were strict, controlling. They believed my life should look a certain way, perfect, successful, obedient. When I fell in love with your father, they hated it. Emma's eyes widened. Why? Because he was kind, I said. Gentle. Simple. He didn't want status or wealth or appearances. He wanted a real life, a real marriage, real love. And they didn't approve. She murmured. No, I said. They gave me an ultimatum. Leave him or leave them. Emma's hand flew to her mouth. What did you do? I chose him. I whispered. And they shut the door on me. Permanently. They sold my childhood home without telling me. They erased me from their lives. They cut me out like a stain. Her breath hitched. Mom, I had no idea. I didn't want you to. I looked down at my hands. I didn't want you to grow up believing that love could be conditional, that a family could turn cold because life didn't follow their script. She wiped her eyes again. Mom, how did you survive that? Your father? I said simply. He refused to let me drown in the pain they left behind. He built a life with me, one choice at a time, one kindness at a time. Emma swallowed hard. And the trust. The trust. I said gently, was your father's way of protecting me from ever being abandoned again, even by accident, even by panic, even by you. Her lips trembled. I didn't know. I know you didn't, I said. You couldn't have. But Emma, the day you drove me here without warning, without discussion, without love, it was the closest I had ever felt to being abandoned since I was 25. She covered her face again, tears falling through her fingers. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know I was repeating something from your past. I didn't know it would hurt you like that. I know, I said gently. And I'm not telling you this to punish you. I'm telling you because I need to understand why today hurt so deeply. Why it wasn't just a mistake. It was a wound breaking open. Emma dropped her hand slowly. Her voice came out quiet and trembling. So the truth you wanted to tell me wasn't about the trust at all. No, I said. It was about us. She nodded slowly, processing, the weight settling on her shoulders. And the last part, she whispered. What's the very last thing? You said there was something that would change everything. I looked her straight in the eyes. Her breath stalled. The last thing? I said softly, is this... You didn't bring me here because you thought I was useless. You brought me here because you thought you were. She froze completely. And then, the moment the sentence sank in, she broke. A sound escaped her throat, not a sob, not a cry, but something small and wounded, like a tiny creature finally collapsing after carrying something too heavy for too long. She choked out, I didn't want you to see me failing. I reached for her hand. You're not failing, I whispered. You're tired. And tired people don't need to push others away. They need support. She pressed her forehead to my shoulder, her tears soaking my sleeve. Mom, I need you, she whispered. It was the most honest thing she had said all day. I wrapped my arm around her trembling back. And I'm not going anywhere, I whispered. But even in that fragile, tender moment, I knew the healing wasn't complete because there was still one more truth she didn't know, one more revelation still hiding in the shadows of our past, a truth that would turn our entire world upside down. Emma stayed in my arms for a long time, trembling softly, letting her tears soak into my blouse. It felt like I was holding her the way I used to when she was little, when scraped knees or nightmares were the biggest monsters in her world. But today's monster wasn't simple. It wasn't external. It wasn't something we could chase away with a hug and a warm cup of cocoa. Today's monster lived inside her fear, shame, pressure, exhaustion, and one more thing, something I hadn't understood until now, a secret she'd been carrying alone. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were swollen, cheeks streaked with tears. "Mom," she said quietly, "you said there was another truth. One more thing I didn't know." She sniffed. "Something big?" "Yes," I said gently. "Something your father left behind." Her eyebrows nodded. "Another clause in the trust?" "No," I said. "Something bigger than money." She swallowed hard. "What is it?" I took her hand. "Before your father died, he asked me to keep one secret, one promise." Emma's eyes widened. "A secret? About what?" "You." I whispered. She shook her head slightly. "Me. What could Dad keep from me?" I exhaled slowly. This was the moment I dreaded for years, the moment I'd prayed would never come. But the truth had been waiting, quietly, patiently, and today had made it impossible to hide any longer. "Your father didn't want you to feel guilty," I said softly. "He didn't want you to think you caused what happened to him." Emma stiffened. "Caused what? His death?" she asked, voice rising. "He had cancer, Mom. That wasn't my fault." "I know," I said. "But his fear came from something you don't remember." Her mouth fell slightly open. "What fear?" "He was afraid." I whispered, "Of losing you the way I lost my parents." She frowned. "That doesn't make sense. He loved me. He knew I loved him." "Yes," I said gently. "But Emma, there was a moment, one single moment, when he believed he could lose you forever." Her breath quickened. "Mom, what are you talking about?" My chest tightened. "Do you remember when you were 11 years old?" She blinked rapidly. I vaguely. "Why?" "Do you remember disappearing for several hours?" Her eyes widened. "Disappearing. I never disappeared." "Yes," I said quietly. "You did." "No," she whispered. Mom, I don't remember that." "You wouldn't," I said gently. "Your father and I made sure of that." Her eyes filled again, not with sadness this time, but with confusion, fear. "What happened?" she whispered. "Where did I go?" I hesitated, not because I didn't want to tell her, but because saying it out loud made me relive that day, the day that changed everything. "Emma," I said quietly, "someone tried to take you." She went completely still, not a blink, not a breath, just silence, cold and sharp, as if the world had paused. "What?" she breathed. "Someone tried to take me." "Yes," I whispered. "You were walking home from school. You were half a block from the house, and a car pulled up." Her hand flew to her mouth. "No, a man opened the door," I continued. "He called your name. He told you your father had sent him." Her face went pale. I don't remember any of this." "Your mind blocked it," I said. "Children do that when trauma is too big to process." She stared at me with wide, trembling eyes. What stopped him?" My throat tightened. "Your father." A tear escaped down her cheek. "What do you mean?" "He was watering the front lawn," I said softly. "He saw the car slow down. He saw you hesitate. And he ran. He didn't even think. He just ran. Her breath shook violently. And then, "He pulled you away," I said. "He put himself between you and the car. And when the driver sped off, your father held you so tightly, I thought your bones might break." Emma covered her face, sobbing again. "Mom, I never knew. I never knew. You almost died that day," I whispered. "Or worse. And your father never recovered from that fear." She shook her head wildly. "But why didn't you tell me? Why didn't I remember?" "Because he begged me not to," I said. "He didn't want you to grow up scared. He wanted you to feel safe, protected, free." She let out a trembling breath. "I can't believe this." And afterward, I continued softly. "Your father made one decision. He would protect you for the rest of his life, even after he was gone." Emma swallowed. "Is that why he created the trust?" "Partly," I said. "But there's more. After that day, he said something to me I'll never forget." Her eyes lifted, red and glassy. "What did he say?" "He said, 'Promise me you will never let fear steal her future the way fear almost stole her life.'" Emma's lips trembled. "Oh, God." "And so," I said softly, "I wrote everything so that neither of us would ever be controlled by fear again." Her body shook. "All this time, I thought I was protecting everyone by making decisions alone. But really," she choked on the words, "I was letting fear run my life." "Yes," I said quietly. "Fear controlled you, the same way your father feared losing you." She wiped tears with trembling fingers. "Mom, why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because until today," I said softly, "you didn't need to know. Your father didn't want the weight of that memory on your shoulders." She cried harder. "And now?" I looked at her, heart heavy but steady. "No," I whispered. "You need to understand why control terrifies you, why losing people breaks you, why you tried to make decisions for me instead of with me." She stared at me, breath shaking. "So this was never about the house?" "No," I said. "This was about your childhood, about trauma you didn't even remember, about fear that never left your bones." Emma collapsed against me again, sobbing into my shoulder. "Mom, I don't want to live like this." "You won't?" I whispered. And then she whispered the question that prepared the ground for everything that would follow. "Mom, if fear has been controlling me my whole life, what do I do now?" I squeezed her hand. "You face the one truth your father could never tell you himself." She looked up at me slowly, eyes wide. "What truth?" I held her gaze and said the sentence that made her freeze completely. "Emma, the man who tried to take you, came back." Emma didn't move. Not a blink, not a breath, not a single muscle. She just stared at me as if her brain had shut down from overload. Finally, a thin whisper slipped out of her trembling lips. "Mom, what did you just say?" I took a slow breath. "The man who tried to take you when you were 11 came back." Her face drained of color. That's impossible," she stammered. "I don't even remember who he was. I don't remember anything about him." "You weren't supposed to," I said softly. "Your father made sure of that. He wanted you to feel safe. He wanted you to grow up without that shadow." "But if I don't remember him, how could he come back? How do you even know it was him?" "Because," I whispered, "he sent me a letter." Emma's breath caught violently. A letter?" "Yes." She shook her head in disbelief. When did this happen? Why didn't you tell me?" "About 6 months before your father died," I answered quietly. "A plain envelope, no return address, no name, Just one sentence written inside. I swallowed hard, remembering the chilling simplicity of the message. Tell her, I haven't forgotten. Emma covered her mouth, her body trembling. Oh my God, oh my God. It terrified your father, I said. He tried to track the sender. He hired a private investigator. He strengthened every lock in the house. He even walked you to and from your car when you visited. Emma's eyes filled again, but these were different tears. Not guilt, not shame, pure fear. Mom, why didn't you tell me this? Because your father begged me not to, I whispered. He didn't want you living in panic. You were beginning your own life. You were newly married. He didn't want to burden you. She shook her head wildly. But he died. He left you alone with this. He left me alone with this. How could he hide something like that from me? He didn't want to, I said gently. He was protecting you the only way he knew how. Emma stood abruptly, pacing in front of the bench like she couldn't stay still. This makes no sense, she cried. Why come back? Why send a letter after all those years? What does he want? My stomach twisted because this was the part she wasn't ready for. I think, I said carefully, was waiting for a moshite. She snapped, panic rising in her voice. For a weakness, I whispered, for an opportunity, for a moment when we weren't paying attention. Her breath trembled. But why now? Why after Dad died? Why after so many years? I hesitated. Then I said the truth. Because your father's death changed everything. Emma froze. How? Because your father was the only one he feared. Her knees buckled slightly. Mom, how do you know all of this? How can you be sure it's the same man? That this isn't something else? Someone else? I exhaled deeply. Because he wrote a second letter. Emma's heart nearly stopped beating. A second one. Yes, I said. It came a year after the first. Your father was already gone. Tears welled instantly in her eyes. What did it say? She whispered, voice barely audible. I looked at her steadily. It said, I've waited long enough. Emma dropped onto the bench, as if her legs had no strength left. No, she whispered. No, Mom. This is unreal. This can't be happening. I wish it wasn't, I said softly. But it is. Her hands shook uncontrollably. Where are the letters now? At home, I answered. In the safe. And you didn't report them? You didn't show the police? Mom, you should have. I did. I cut in 3 times. Emma stared at me. What? They said there wasn't enough to identify him. No threat directly stated. No fingerprints. No clear suspect. So nothing was done? She whispered. Nothing. Emma leaned back, eyes wide with horror. And you lived with this alone? For years? Without telling me. You were raising kids, I said. You were overwhelmed already. You didn't need to live in fear of something you couldn't remember. She pressed her palms against her forehead. This is too much. She whispered. Mom, this is too much. I know, I said gently. There was a long, heavy silence. The air felt thick, like the world was holding its breath. Finally, Emma looked up at me, her expression a mixture of terror and realization. Mom, she whispered, the man who tried to take me? Do you think he's the reason I've been feeling watched? My heart pounded. When did you start feeling that? She swallowed hard. Months ago. Someone's been calling and hanging up. Sometimes I feel like someone parked outside the house is watching us. I kept brushing it off, telling myself I was imagining it. Her voice cracked. But what if I wasn't imagining any of it? What What if it was him? I reached for her hand, gripping it tightly. That's why I'm telling you everything now, I said. You need to understand what we're dealing with. Emma's eyes darkened with panic. But why wait? Why reveal this today? I looked at her steadily. Because today, for the first time in your life, fear drove you to repeat the very thing someone once tried to do to you. She blinked, confused. What do you mean? Abandonment, I whispered. You were almost stolen from us as a child, and today you almost left me behind. Her breath caught violently. Mom, you tried to put me away, I said softly. You tried to erase me from your daily life. Not because you're cruel, but because fear was whispering in your ear, just like it once whispered to him. Emma's shoulders slumped, as if something heavy had been placed on her back. It's like the past has been chasing me without me even knowing, she whispered. Yes, I said. And now it's caught up. Her voice shook. What do we do, Mom? What if he's still out there? What if he comes back again? What if... I squeezed her hand firmly. That, I said quietly, is why I didn't come here today to be abandoned. She stared at me, confused. I leaned closer. I came with something. Her eyebrows knit. What? A letter? I whispered. Her heart seemed to stop. A letter? From him? No, I said softly. From your father? Emma's eyes widened in shock. A letter from Dad. For me. I nodded. He wrote it before he died. For you. With instructions for when you reach this breaking point. Emma trembled. What breaking point? I held her gaze. The moment fear took control of your life again. She stared at me. Her mouth opened slowly. Her voice came out shaking. What does the letter say? I took a deep breath and said the words that would lead us straight into the final part of the story. It says he knew this day would come and he left you the truth about the man who tried to take you. Emma stared at me like the world had just tilted beneath her feet. A letter from Dad, she whispered. About him. About the man who tried to take me. Yes, I said quietly. Her eyes filled again, not just with fear this time, but disbelief and something like betrayal. Mum, all these years, Dad kept this from me. He wrote a letter and you didn't show it to me. I took her hand gently because he left very clear instructions. He said I was only to give it to you when fear had started running your life again, the way it once almost took you from us. She shook her head slightly, as if trying to absorb too many truths at once. I don't understand why now, why today. Because today, I whispered, you made a choice not from love, but from fear. And he knew the day you started sacrificing love to make fear go quiet. That would be the day you needed to know the truth he took to his grave. Emma swallowed hard. What truth? I inhaled slowly. He named the man. Emma froze completely. Hey, what? He knew who he was? I said. Not fully, not everything, but enough to identify him. Enough to know what he wanted. No, she whispered. Mum, if Dad knew who he was, why didn't he have him arrested? Couldn't, I said. There wasn't enough evidence to make anything stick. Your father's testimony alone wasn't enough. But Dad wasn't the type to just let something go. She insisted. Why didn't he tell me? Why didn't he prepare me? He was preparing you, I said quietly, just in his own way. Emma shook her head, tears spilling again. I feel like everything I knew about my childhood is unraveling. It's not unraveling, I said softly. It's revealing. She let out a shaky breath. Mom, can I read the letter? Yes, I said, but not here. Not in this parking lot. This isn't something to absorb while cars drive by and strangers walk past. Emma nodded slowly, wiping her cheeks. Okay, then let's go home. We started walking toward her car, but halfway there she stopped. Mom, she said suddenly, her voice trembling. What if he's still watching? What if he's been watching this whole time? I turned and looked directly into her frightened eyes. If he is, I said steadily, then today he saw something he wasn't expecting. She swallowed. What? He saw that you're not a child anymore, and that I'm not alone. Her lips parted slightly. You think he's that dangerous? I whispered that anyone who waits this long, watches this long, and hides this long is dangerous. Emma's breath hitched. I feel sick. I know, I said gently. But you're safe with me, and you were safe with your father. That's why he wrote what he wrote. He wanted to protect you, even after he was gone. We reached her car. She unlocked it, but didn't get in. She gripped the door frame like she needed something sturdy to hold on to. Mom, she whispered, before we go, can you tell me one thing? Of course. Her voice shook. What if the letter says something that I can't handle? I touched her cheek gently. Then you won't handle it alone. Her breath broke into a soft sob. You really think he knew this was coming? I don't think, I said softly. I know. She stared at me, eyes wide and trembling. How? Because the last night your father was alive, I whispered. He held my hand and said, Emma will face the same fear one day, and when she does, she will need the truth more than she needs protection. A tear slid down Emma's cheek. He said that. I nodded. Your father wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of leaving you without answers. Emma pressed her trembling hand to her mouth. I miss him so much. I know, I said, my own voice softening. I do too. And now, she whispered, whatever he wrote, it's the only thing he left that's just for me. Yes. She wiped her face and took a slow breath. Then let's go home. We got into the car, but before Emma started the engine, I gently placed a hand on her arm. There's one more thing you need to know before you read the letter, I said. She tensed. What? Your father didn't just write the man's name, I whispered. He wrote what he discovered about him. Emma's eyes widened. Mum, what did Dad find out? I held her gaze. He found out why the man wanted you. Emma's breath stopped. Why? She whispered. The air in the car felt still, heavy, electric. I let the truth fall slowly, softly, like something fragile, because he believed you were supposed to be his. Emma's face twisted in confusion and horror. His what? His child, I whispered. Silence, a horrifying, suffocating silence. Emma didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't speak. She only stared at me wide-eyed, trembling as the meaning sank into her bones. The man who tried to take her as a child had believed she was his daughter. Her voice shook violently. Mom, that's not possible. That's not possible. I know, I said softly. It wasn't true. He was delusional. He was dangerous. Your father made sure of that? Emma shook her head, panic rising. But why would he think that? Why would he believe something like that? What in the world made him? I reached over and took her hand again. Emma, I whispered, that's what the rest of the letter explains. She squeezed her eyes shut, shaking. I want to go home, she whispered. Please, take me home, okay? I said gently. Let's go. As she finally started the car and pulled out of the lot, her voice broke in a quiet, terrified whisper. Mom, if he really believed I was his, does that mean he's coming back for me again? I turned toward her slowly, and without softening the truth, I whispered, "That's why we need to read the letter together, because your father left the answer to exactly that." The car ride home was so quiet, so heavy, that even the humming of the engine felt loud. Emma kept both hands locked around the steering wheel, like it might slip away if she loosened her grip. Her breaths were uneven, shallow, shaky, the kind a person takes when every thought is fighting to be heard. I watched her profile. My daughter? Afraid, confused, haunted by a memory she didn't even know she had. After several minutes, she whispered, "Mom, what if the letter says something I can't handle? What if it's worse than I think? Then I'll hold you through it," I said softly. "The way your father would have." Her lip trembled. What if he was right? What if the man really thought? She broke off, choking on the words. That I was his. I gently put my hand over hers on the console. "You are your father's child, Emma, your father, not his." "But why would he believe that?" she whispered. "Why would he show up, try to take me, then come back years later?" "That's exactly what your father tried to understand," I said. "And what he wrote in that letter." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I'm scared." "I know." She sniffed, trying to steady her voice. "Mom, was that why he changed the locks all the time? Why he checked the windows twice a day? Why he made us cut through the backyard instead of using the front gate?" "Yes," I whispered. Emma exhaled shakily. All this time, I thought he was just overprotective. I thought he was afraid of losing me because he loved me too much. "He did love you too much," I said. "But he was also afraid of losing you because he almost did." Emma wiped her face roughly. "Mom, if he knew that man believed I was his daughter, then does that mean Dad suspected the man knew something about him? About you? About us?" I took a slow breath. "Your father didn't hide the truth from you because it was about him. He hid it because it was about the man." Emma's hands tightened on the wheel. "I don't understand." "You will," I said gently. Soon, we reached my house, or what was supposed to be my house, and parked in the driveway. The "for sale" sign was still staked in the ground. Bold red letters, UNDR, contract. Emma flinched when she saw it. "Oh God," she whispered. "Mom, I'm so sorry I did this. I never should have. It's all right," I said softly. "What matters is what we do now." We walked inside. Everything felt strange, like the house had been holding its breath, waiting to see if I would come back or vanish forever. I went straight to the hall closet, reached behind the winter coats, and pulled out the fireproof lockbox. Emma watched me like a frightened child waiting for punishment. My hands trembled a little as I keyed in the code. The lid clicked open. Inside were birth certificates, wills, insurance policies, photographs, and the envelope, cream-colored, edges worn with time. My husband's handwriting on the front. For Emma to be opened only when fear returns. Emma's face went white. "That's Dad's handwriting." "Yes." She reached out but stopped, her hand hovering above the envelope like it might burn her. "Mom, I'm not ready." You don't have to open it yet," I said gently. "We'll sit together." We went to the living room. She lowered herself onto the sofa slowly, like her legs barely worked. I sat beside her and placed the envelope in her hands. For a moment, she only stared at it. Then she whispered, "If Dad left this for me, does that mean he knew fear would ruin my life again?" "No," I said. "He believed you'd face a moment when fear would try to ruin your life. But he also believed you would choose differently. She swallowed hard. What if I can't? You already did, I whispered. You came back for me at that door. Her eyes filled with fresh tears. She slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a single folded letter, yellowed slightly at the corners. Handled many times by your father, read and reread. Emma unfolded it with trembling fingers. Her eyes scanned the first line. She gasped softly. 8, it's his voice. Mom, it sounds like him, like he's right here. I placed my hand over hers, read it out loud. I said gently, I'm here. She nodded, wiped her cheeks, steadied herself. Then, voice shaking, she began, my sweet Emma, if you're reading this, then fear has come back into your life, and I am not there to help you fight it. Emma's voice cracked, but she forced herself to continue. I want you to know something. First, you were never in danger because of who you are. You were almost taken because of who he was. Emma stopped breathing. I touched her shoulder. Keep going. She swallowed hard. The man who tried to take you believed a lie. A dangerous, delusional lie that had nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with your mother. Nothing to do with our marriage. She exhaled shakily, relief and fear mixing in her eyes. She continued, before you were born, that man was obsessed with your mother. Emma's eyes widened. Mom? It's all right? I whispered. Keep reading. Hay followed her for months. He believed she belonged to him. And when she married me, he snapped. Emma trembled violently. He followed you, she whispered. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Because you were a child, I answered softly. Your father didn't want you to fear every shadow. She nodded weakly and kept reading. When you were born, he became convinced you were his child, even though this was impossible. He believed you were taken from him. He convinced himself I stole you, and he came for you. Emma nearly dropped the paper. No, this is insane. But she kept reading. The day he tried to take you, he said, I'm just taking back what's mine. That's when I knew how dangerous he truly was. She covered her mouth, tears spilling. Mom, that's terrifying. I know, I whispered. She continued. I spent years protecting you from him. But if he has returned, he will not be after her. He will be after you. Because in his mind, you were always the one stolen from him. Emma froze. Her face went pale. Her breath turned shallow. Mom, he's coming back for me. Finish the letter, I whispered. Her hand shook violently as she read the final lines. Emma, if he returns, you must do one thing. Tell your mother the truth. Tell her what I could not. Tell her I did not fear losing myself. I feared losing you, and now she must help you do what I spent my life preparing for, to face the man who once tried to steal you and protect the family he once tried to break. Emma stared at the letter as if it were a bomb. Then she whispered, Mom, this isn't out there. I took a deep breath. And I said the final line leading into the last section. Emma, we're not the only ones who know he's back. Emma stared at me like I had just spoken a foreign language. What do you mean? She whispered. We're not the only ones who know he's back. I folded the letter gently and placed it on the coffee table. He isn't hiding anymore, I said quietly. He's watching. And someone else is someone who's been trying to protect us has noticed. Emma's eyebrows pulled together. Ooh. I took a deep breath. The private investigator your father hired years ago, the one who tried to track the man after the letter started, you said he couldn't find anything. Emma whispered. At the time, no. But 2 weeks ago, he called me. Emma's breath caught. 2 weeks ago. Mom, why didn't you? Because I didn't want to overwhelm you until I knew everything. I interrupted, and I didn't know everything not until today. She swallowed hard. What did he say? He told me the man resurfaced, I said. He'd been spotted near the city. Same car model. Same description. Same pattern of behavior. Emma's face twisted in fear. No, no. No, no, Mom. He was looking for you, I whispered. Not me. Not this house. You. Her voice trembled. Why didn't you tell me? Because until today, you weren't ready to know? I said softly. You were already drowning in stress. You weren't even letting me into your life. How could I tell you someone dangerous was circling again? She covered her face with her hands. Mom, I almost left you at a nursing home. And the whole time you were dealing with this. What's wrong with me? Why didn't I see it? I pulled her hands away gently. Because fear blinds people differently, Emma. Your father feared losing you. You feared failing everyone. And I paused. He feared losing control of a delusion. Emma's voice was thin. What happens now? I reached into the lockbox again and pulled out a second items, a small black key. Emma stared at it. What's that? The last thing your father prepared, I said softly. He kept it locked away until the day he died, and he told me only one thing. She'll need it when the past returns. Emma took the key with trembling fingers. What does it open? The safe deposit box at the bank. I said, your father left documents inside, evidence, photos, notes, everything he learned about the man. Emma hugged the key to her chest like it weighed 10 pounds. So Dad left me everything I need to understand all this. Yes, I whispered. And to protect yourself. Her breath trembled. And you. I'm right here, I said. I'm not going anywhere again. Silence settled between us, deep, thick, emotional. Then Emma leaned into me and whispered, I'm scared, Mom. I wrapped my arms around her. I know, but you're not 11 anymore. And we're not alone. She clung to me tightly. After a long moment, she pulled back, her expression changing, fear still there, but something new rising behind it. Strength, resolve, the same fire her father had. Mom, she whispered, we need to go to the bank tomorrow. Yes, I said, would do. And then what? I placed my hand gently on hers. Then, I whispered, we read what your father left, and we decide what to do next. Her breath shook. What if he comes back before that? I looked her in the eyes. Then he'll find 2 strong women waiting, I said. Not one frightened girl. She nodded slowly, but with purpose. We sat together in silence for several minutes. The house felt different. Alive again. Awake. Not a place I'd been forced out of, but a place where truth had returned. Finally, Emma whispered, Mom, thank you for trusting me with this, for not giving up on me, for loving me even when I made the worst mistake of my life. I squeezed her hand gently. And thank you, I said, for choosing love today, for coming back. Her eyes filled again, but this time not with fear, with something softer. Hope. She looked around my living room, the place she almost took from me, and said quietly, this is still your home. I nodded. And it always will be, I whispered, as long as we face the future together, not apart. She took a deep, steadying breath. Tomorrow, she said, we open Dad's box. Yes. And whatever truth is in there, we'll face it. I finished. Together. I leaned my head gently against hers. The past had returned. The fear had returned. But so had something stronger, family, courage, and the promise my husband left behind. as the sun began to set outside the window, casting a soft gold glow over us. Emma whispered the final words of our long, painful day. "Mom, I'm ready now." And for the first time in years, she truly was.